you shouldn't be playing. If you're good enough, if you are mentally healthy enough to go out and perform in front of millions of people, then you should be mentally healthy enough to do a 5-minute press conference at the end of the day.
So
that is part of your job and what you are doing. And if you are going to get paid for the event that you are competing in and trying to earn accolades in and boost your name, your brand, and your wealth in, then you should be able to answer 5 questions.
Same thing with Marshawn Lynch.
100%.
Okay.
The thing I loved about Marshawn was Marshawn found a way around it.
He did, yeah.
And he went in and just said, next question, next question, next question. She could easily do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
But you can't just not show up. If you don't show up, I think that shows poor sportsmanship. I think that's a bad example. Whether you win or lose, it doesn't matter. I don't like whenever when LeBron, there's a famous gif of him when he's all dressed in a suit and he gets up, he grabs his briefcase and he walks off. I didn't like that.
Game 1 of the last finals against the Warriors.
Yes, and I don't like that shit. I think that whether you win or lose, you are that's when you're making your brand. That's when you're impacting the kids. That's when you're doing all that other stuff. Because in the end, when you're being a role model for children, which is ultimately what matters more, none of these guys are my role model or your role model. We just enjoy the sport. But for the kids who really idolize these people, that is where it comes through. And that's what you're wanting them to exemplify is good sportsmanship and all this other stuff that we preach and talk about.
Is she not setting an example, though, by saying, I think my mental health is important, I'm not going to interview?
I don't think so.
I think that is, I mean, if she goes out and does it anyways and is forced to do it, going against what she knows is negatively impacting her, I don't think that sends the right message.
I think that I cannot imagine, as a person who has dealt with mental health and depression and all of these things, I cannot imagine that the 5-minute press conference is the thing that is severely tarnishing her mental health.
In your face. It's not playing a match where you're playing one person, or if maybe it's doubles and you're playing on a team.
Sure.
You're focused in that game.
Yeah.
You don't have a camera inches from your face with reporters screaming at you and yelling at you.
If
you don't deal with mental health issues or anxiety, that is a completely different scenario than just being on a court hitting a ball around. Than dealing with that. It's 2 different multitudes.
It's not going to be the 5-minute questions, though, that lead to it. It's all of the stuff on ESPN like it is right now, talking about, well, should she really be playing? Should she be doing that? That's the stressful shit that people can't handle.
But that's your opinion. She's vocalizing, saying that I can't do this. I physically cannot do this interview for my own mental health. And we're telling her she's wrong and that she should do it because it's her job.
I don't believe that. I personally do not believe that.
It's my stance is it's one of those things where you've signed a contract. I mean, it sucks. Like I said, the WWE thing where they're telling people to get off Cameo or they're going to be fired is unfair.
Yeah.
But you signed a contract with the devil. You made that deal.
That's just sad to me.
It sucks.
That's really sad.
It absolutely sucks. But you made that deal. And if you're in breach of that deal, you can be in a lot worse trouble than a 5-minute interview.
I say you hit her with a fine. If she chooses not to, fine her and you move on.
That's what we might end up going to. That is, she might end up getting fined because of something.
She's not going to lose her spot. I mean, she's the best tennis player in the world.
She's not going to lose her spot, but she felt that she needed to drop from the tournament because of the shit she was getting for not wanting to interview after a match.
But I think
that just shows. The thing to me that is so disheartening in the whole situation is that we care more about pummeling this girl with questions after her match than caring about the fact that she is telling you, I'm going through depression and a mental health problem, and you don't care.
I think that's where the problem
really
came
awful
in.
Message.
I think that is where the problem came into it. If she would have said, I don't like to talk to the media, just like Marshawn Lynch said, I'm just about the game. I don't want to do it. Nobody would have cared. When she said that it was because of her mental health.
Yeah. Beforehand.
Sure. And maybe it's true and maybe I'm a dick.
You are.
Those are totally irrelevant stances.
I just cannot believe that a person who does commercials and who does spotlights and does all this stuff is mentally stressed over the 5-minute segment of questions, which really aren't that challenging.
Depression is not something that, as someone that lives with someone who deals with extreme anxiety and depression, it is not 24/7.
I get that.
It can hit you at the wake of a moment and you don't want to do anything. And for someone that doesn't go through it, you will never understand it. And I can't. I've been through there where I'm like not understanding of it because I don't understand it. And it doesn't make sense. To your point, you're like, that shouldn't matter. I've been that person. And I realized through conversation with people that like, you will never understand unless you're in the moment. And unless you realize that when it's the burden of leading up to that, knowing, okay, after this match, now I've got to go and have all these people staring me in the face. I know she signed a contract and it's part of her job. The sad part for me is that she can't enjoy something that maybe relieves that anxiety because of the fear of what comes after the fact. You can't participate in that sport or that talent that you have because of the obligation that you have after the fact when you know, and I'm not saying it's wrong or right. Again, she isn't in a contract, but I think there needs to be leniency or understanding. Slap her on the wrist, give her a fine, say, you know what, that's fine if you're not going to do it, and move on with your day. What does she owe us?
I think we're on the same page a lot closer than you think we are. The thing is, as I said, is it right? Should we have more understanding for mental health, when compared to physical health? Absolutely. I agree 100% with you. The problem is why we don't is because of contracts. Contracts at the end of the day is a deal to be fulfilled regardless. So if you have an obligation, if your contract says you have to be here on this many dates, you have to play, you have to, be in a room and all that, that's something you have to work out when the contract is being signed. That is something where you go like, well, look.
Again, if she was really sick, I guarantee you they would just say,
I don't think it would be as a whole though. I think there would be like, okay, it's fine now. We'll get him out of, she has cancer. We'll say she has cancer. She's not going to play on the tour for now, but she's going to make that up to us somewhere down the line. She didn't
say she was permanently never going to interview. She just said after that match, she was not in the right mindset to do that interview. It wasn't, I'm never going to interview again.
I'm fine with the fine.
Yeah.
Fine her and say, well, that was part of your obligation. So we're taking this much money off.
Right.
Sorry.
I didn't realize it was only for the one.
Yeah, she didn't say she's like, I'm never going to interview again.
Well, then that's different. That changes my whole perspective. Because my whole thing is, I thought she was saying, I just can't do interviews. And I think that's bullshit.
No, she dropped from this specific match or tournament that she's in after winning the first match because the pressure that she felt from it, she couldn't interview. And she voiced that she couldn't interview. And they basically pressured her to the point of like, well, you have to. So she said, well, I'm just going to quit then. Like,
I still think there are ways around it. You could have sent the questions in and had her record her answers. You could have done it, digitally like we've done all year.
Yeah. Right.
I think that is part of the industry. And if you want to get paid the big dollars of professional tennis, like these other people do, then you have to be able to fulfill what those big dollars want.
And to piggyback on what he said, like, that's so as your obligation, there's going to come a time where you're going to be asked to do that. Now, like you're fine this week, but next week's tour, are you going to be fine?
Right.
Who's to say? Maybe that week, you feel overwhelmed too.
Yeah.
So what do we do? Do we do this every week? Do we go? I'm not trying to be, sarcastic or anything, but what do we do every week? Do we say, well, that's that. We'll just fine her, $200,000 and that'll be the end of it.
You fine her.
Jordan famously couldn't deal with the media. It drove him nuts. And he was the exact same way. It just, we didn't talk about mental health that way, but yes, he was mentally unhealthy, I guess is the best way to say it, because of the media, but he found a way to make it work. And he was even worse because he couldn't even go anywhere.
Yeah.
If she walked down the street right now, you probably wouldn't notice her.
I also got to think about her age. She is a young girl.
She is young.
A lot of pressure.
And I think that's got a lot to do with it too.
I just think it's just sad, and that's just sports in a whole, in the industry, tennis, basketball, football, whatever, that we just care so little about them, and it's just about us. And I just find that to be sad.
A majority of answers, I'll tell you, if you asked 100 people on the street, majority of answers is they make a lot of money. To hell with them.
Absolutely.
Like they're there for my entertainment dance.
Yeah. You know what,
that's
though?
just sad to me.
The players that I feel more connected to on a personal level that I would go to bat for no matter what are the people who do those press conferences that I know more personally also.
Yeah.
The people that tweet, the people that go out there, whether I hate them or love them personally, is more because of their social standing.
Yeah.
The Juju Smith-Schusters that I can't stand, the Baker Mayfields that I love, Jarvis Landrys that I love, those guys show their personality in those things. You know who I don't give a shit about, whether or not they, what they want this way or the other? It's the random guys that don't do anything, like James Conner, who got cut from the team, and I went, oh, sucks for him. Enjoy Arizona.
I get it. You don't find a personal connection to them because you're not interacting with them after games or whatever. And I get that. I don't know. There's something about it that just bothers me, and I don't know what it is. It's like I don't think we have any ownership over them, and I feel like that's a lot of the way that they're treated.
But what do you think a contract is?
It's a job.
Ryan,
It's a job.
You're a photographer. I tell you, you have to be at my wedding at 1:00. I've paid you in advance, and I've said, we've laid out everything that needs to be done. And the day of, you say I'm overwhelmed and I can't do it, dude. It's my wedding.
I'd owe you the money back.
Yeah,
I'd have to give you the money. That's what I'm saying. You fine me.
So that's going to end up being the resolution. It's that she's going to have to fork over probably a majority of her winnings. Yeah. If she's cool with that, I'm cool with that.
Oh yeah.
That's where professional sports gets all of its money though.
Yeah.
All that viewership and all that other stuff comes from the personality of those leagues. Serena Williams, people love her, but nobody gives a shit if she's a really good tennis player.
Do you guys really put that much focus on post-game interview? Like you sit around and watch? I don't ever fucking watch that shit.
The vast majority though of that stuff comes from social, like the money that comes from the NBA, NFL, and all that other stuff all comes from commercials, social interviews,
right? Awareness,
what they appear like.
But does that come from the post-game stuff? I mean, I feel like you know about those people just based on watching.
So if nobody photographed or recorded, any post-game interviews, we didn't hear shit about the women's tour the whole time.
Yeah.
Would it exist?
The women's what?
The whole women's tour. If nobody broadcasted, if nobody asked post-game interviews, if the media straight up did not exist in that world, would women's tennis even exist?
They don't record the game, or you're saying they don't do interviews?
If you cut one, it has to be all of it. It's all or nothing.
It doesn't require interviews to have a game. You can watch I can watch the Cavs game, and I don't have to sit around and watch an interview after.
Okay, but you asked a question of so why is there so much importance on that post game interview and all that? Because that is part of it. That is those reporters' jobs. They have to ask those tough questions.
Right.
Sometimes it's not pretty. Sometimes it's assumptive. Well, a lot of the times it's assumptive. But it is what it is. It's your obligation. You have to go afterwards.
I get that, but it's not all or nothing.
But ultimately, what it comes down to, the vast majority of popularity in sports comes from a couple of different things. Typically, skill is not the biggest thing. It's usually either something that's very different while they're good. So like Serena Williams is obviously the best tennis player in the world, but the reason she's famous is because she came onto the scene of tennis as a black female and dominated, and that was crazy. Tiger Woods, same thing. Yeah. Black guy in a white sport dominates. Same thing with Venus, same thing with now what's her name?
Naomi Osaka.
Osaka. Yeah. So all that stuff happens for those reasons.
Yeah.
Maria Sharapova wasn't that great, but she was cute and that sold. So we put her on Kodak commercials and everybody loved her. Yeah. And that's why we knew her. I don't know a single other female tennis player. And it's the same problem that the WNBA goes with is none of those women are marketable. And that's why nobody watches it. They make less money than I do every single year. And
don't you really know them though, based on their talent? Because the only people that are getting interviewed are the people that are talented. You're not interviewing after the game Joe Schmo. You're interviewing the quarterback. You're interviewing the LeBron James.
Because
those are the people you know because they're the best players.
No, man. Brittany Griner made a name for herself because she was dunking the ball in the WNBA NCAA tournament. When she went into the pros, who knows her? Nobody. You don't hear about her anymore. Susan Bird, you hear about her every once in a while because they're really pushing the narrative.
About her because she's not good.
She is. Susan Bird's like the number one women's player.
The girl that you're saying that went to the WNBA, nobody knows her.
She was. She
good
was
in the WNBA.
She's good,
but is she the best?
I don't know if she's the best, but Susan Bird is the best, and you wouldn't be able to pick her out if I sent you 5 women's pictures right now.
I don't even know her name,
and it's because I don't even know
who their name
is. She is the Michael Jordan of the WNBA right now.
Is she doing post-game interviews?
Yeah,
probably.
And I don't know her.
But that's the thing is, it's not a marketable thing. If you aren't marketable, you're not going to make money, and that's why they need you to do this stuff because this girl is marketable. She just beat Serena. We need you to market our thing so people watch women's tennis because Serena's getting older. Somebody's got to take that mantle or we're going to die out and fizzle. And if you want to keep making these big paychecks, you're doing interviews so that we can put you on a Wheaties box and people don't go, who the hell is this person on the Wheaties box?
I get it. I like I said with the Boston thing, I don't, you guys are way more into sports than me. Way more.
That is true.
I just don't know that connection. I don't understand that connection.
And I think that's why there's a disconnect.
You guys are way, and I mean, anybody that listens to the show knows I don't fucking know sports. I just don't have that physical, personal connection.
Now, here's my thing. I don't think sports is worth, bringing a gun to the game and shooting a player or anything like that. I think that's ridiculous on any stretch.
Load, baby.
No, I hate players. I don't want to see them dead. Never. But I feel like,
for the record, neither do I.
Post-game interviews and stuff like that.
I get it.
It sucks, man. But it is. It's part of your job.
I just think that there are.
I just don't understand that.
I don't want to deal with interacting with people every day.
Yeah,
it's part of my job. I got to do it.
There are highly, highly talented people in all areas, but even in the NFL,
Yeah.
the guys that are driving the market are not the best players. Baker Mayfield is probably one of the most commercialized people in the NFL. He's not one of the best. I think he's top 10, maybe.
Yeah, he's made a personality for himself, and he's done his. I get it.
But then you look at people who are the best at their position, guys like Julio Jones, who are quiet guys who keep their head down, and now people are already writing them off after one injured season, and they don't really talk about him. And when they go down to the list of all-time greats, Julio will not be mentioned because of that. Larry Fitzgerald is another guy, an all-time great at the position. Nobody will talk about him because he was quiet the whole time. Yeah. He wasn't flashy. He didn't do a lot of advertisements and everything else.
I see.
Marshawn Lynch wasn't the best running back in the league.
Yeah.
But you know what? He ate a bunch of Skittles on the sideline one time and got a deal, and you saw him in some commercials, and everybody knows beast mode.
Yeah.
Everybody knows beast mode, and you will never forget him.
Terrell Owens.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
Thing.
I don't know. That's wild to
I'm
me.
not saying that it should be that way, but that is how it is.
I'm the same way. I look. Nobody values mental health more than me.
I just think that that's something in this country that we don't spend enough time talking about or showing care for.
Yeah.
And that just her whole thing just sparked an annoyance in me because it just got brushed off. And players were even saying, and I mean, to your guys' point, it's your job. Like when people were saying that though, I'm like, show some compassion. This is a young woman who is voicing publicly to you all that I can't do this. And you're all like, well, tough luck. That's your job. And I'm just like, that just seems awful to me. Like, I don't know.
I think that is just the world that we're in. And you have to be more strategic than that. You can't just hope that the world's going to be like, that's okay. We're here for you. Because the world's not here for you. The world's here to eat you.
I can't go to my job tomorrow, show up crying and saying like, look, it's giving me anxiety. You know, every night I go home, I'm miserable. I can't do this job. Like, I just need 10 minutes out today. I can't do that. My ass.
You need a new job.
My ass is gone.
Yeah, well, you need a new job then because you should be able to do that. I know. I could easily do that. When I was prior to my current job change, I was a manager, and I would tell my employees that every single day, if you are having a hard time and you just need a moment to yourself, just tell me I'm going to sit in the back for 15 minutes and I will happily oblige. You should be able to do that. That's my point. Thing. Mental health is not talked about. It is not.
Now hold on.
Go ahead.
I have students that come in and they go, "Oh God, I'm just not feeling it today." I also will let them put their head down and go to sleep that day or do whatever they need to do because they had a bad day and whatever. They do that shit 4 days in a row. I don't give a fuck what's going on, dude. You got stuff to do and you've slept all the week. And the same thing, if you didn't have work time or if I didn't have work time to call off for any personal reasons or sick days or whatever, they wouldn't give a shit about your or my mental health either. Yeah. If I want to take a mental health day, I can because I have sick time accrued and I've got personal days. But if I was out of those days and I came in and I was like, look, I had a kid who told me all this stuff and my wife is pregnant and, you know, we're having issues with all of this and all this stuff's going on with COVID and blah, blah, blah. And I just need a mental health day. They'd be like, well, what's your contract say? Do you got any days? And I'd be in there for work.
Yeah. We have things in place for that, though. If it gets to that point where you don't, it's called FMLA, and you can apply for that, and you can take protected paid time off from work that you cannot be fired. There are things in place for that. It's just not talked about enough. We brush it off like it's no big deal, and that's a problem. And if your job isn't understanding that, I'm not being an asshole. Like, that's just wrong. Your manager, if they truly would act that way, you need a new job because your manager, as a manager, part of your job is accommodating your employees and not being a robot and showing compassion and caring. To Jesse's point, if it's every single day you're coming in and you're just blowing it off, okay, well then maybe it's not the right job for you.
I just think that there's ways that you can handle these types of things also. Like, I have anxiety. It's not bad. Like, I know your wife and my wife, they both deal with it far more than I do. But when it gets me, it's bad. Hyperventilating, can't breathe type bad. And I have a set of emergency pills at home that if anything ever happens, I can pop one and it mellows me out. She could get something like that. There are ways to work through your issues also and live a normal life without having to do it. Now, if it's one-time thing, I don't really think it's that big of a deal.
I don't think it was the thing that pissed me off wasn't so much. It was the way that people reacted to it. It was the tough luck, too bad. I just think that sends an awful message. It just sends the message that mental health is not important.
Well, the way that
it shouldn't come off that way.
The way it's being reported makes it seem like she's not going to do any more interviews because I thought that was the case even before you said that.
Yeah.
So
Well, she's not because she
knowing-
dropped out. I mean, I don't know when she plans to come back. But as of
right, but
now,
it
she
made it
won't.
seem like she was like, I just can't do interviews at all.
And that's where I applaud her. So dropping out, I feel that's the only move you could have made.
Right.
So if these interviews drive you nuts so badly to that point, you have to leave.
Right.
It's the same thing you told me.
Yeah.
If your boss is that insensitive, then you need to find another job. And I would say Osaka, the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just sad. I don't know. That's real sad to me. But yeah, you should find a new job.
I was being.
I know you were just making a point, but I'm saying like people, there are situations like that though, and it should not be that way.
Yeah, I agree.
It should absolutely not be that way.
But I would tell her the same thing, and I applaud her for quitting, for leaving.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
If it bothers you that bad, that's the only way you're going to show the public that it bothers you that bad. To walk away from millions of dollars.
Yep, for her to have stepped out of a tournament that she very well probably would have won.
Yeah.
I applaud her for it as well. I just wish that it was discussed better amongst the people that were bashing her for not doing it.
Well, look at the Kevin Love shit. They brushed it right off, man.
Yep. It's sad.
That is true.